Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Zabron Ernest, a teacher at Alimuntazili Islamic Seminary, Girls Wing. This tutorial is a quick tutorial to help my Form 1 students who are seated at home. Is an assistance for one of their homeworks, which is homework number 4. Okay, so this is homework number 4 for my Form 1 students. It is page 135, course book 8. So there we go. The students were asked to find the coordinates of the midpoint of each of the given pentagon. Right? So they were given a diagram here. This diagram is representing a pentagon. A pentagon is a shape which has 5 sides, like so, and 5 angles. So that is all about a pentagon. Now, what is the question? The question is, find the coordinates of the midpoint of each side of this pentagon. Okay? Now, somebody may be asking herself or himself that what does a midpoint mean? So we say midpoint is the point located at the center of a line. Okay, so midpoint is the point located at the center of a line segment. See that? A line segment. So you'll be given a line, and you'll be asked to find the midpoint. Okay? Now, there are 2 ways by which you can apply to find the midpoint of a given line segment. All right? Now, how do we find the midpoint? You can find the midpoint by using either a formula or by drawing a given line on a graph paper. Okay, so there are 2 methods. One, you can find the midpoint of a line segment by using a formula. Secondly, by drawing such line segment on a graph paper. Okay? Now, for instance, look at this question. This question says, find the coordinates of the midpoint of each side of this pentagon. Now, let me start with the first side. Okay? Now, suppose I want to find the midpoint of, say, this side here. Let me try to zoom this diagram so that you can understand what exactly I'm doing here. Okay, so let us make like 300. Okay, now let me start showing you how do we find the midpoint of this line here, the line from A to E. How do we find the midpoint of the line from A to E? Now, the midpoint of this line from A to E, we are going to use the first method, which is finding the midpoint by using or by drawing the given line on a graph paper. So we are going to use the first method of finding the midpoint of a given line by drawing the line itself on a graph paper, or on a grid. Now, as you can see, this line here is already on a graph paper, so we don't have to draw it again. The line is already on the graph paper, and this is the line which I'm talking about. I'm talking about the line from A to E. I'm talking about this line. How do we find the midpoint of that line. This is what I want to show. So by using a graph paper, you can find the midpoint of this line from A to E. How do we do that? Simple. How do we do that? It's very simple. So what we are going to do is count. You have to count as you move from point A, to point E, how many squares? When I say squares, I mean these boxes on the graph paper. So as you move from A to E, how many boxes of the graph paper you are cutting through? How many boxes? From A to E, there are how many boxes? I'm cutting the first box from here. The first box, 1, 2, 3 boxes, 4 boxes, 5 boxes, 6 boxes. So as I move from A to E, I'm cutting 6 boxes. Now, what is the midpoint? Where is the midpoint of this line from A to E? Since there are 6 boxes from A to E, now the center, in order for you to get the center, you take these 6, then you divide by 2. What is 6 divided by 2? The answer is 3. That means the midpoint from A will be, you just count 3 boxes because that is where the center is. So the first box you have cut, the second box you have cut, the third box you stop there. So your midpoint is somewhere here. You see that? Let me repeat again. Where is the midpoint from A? Where is the midpoint from A? The midpoint from A, you'll be counting 3 boxes because there are 6 boxes from A to E. So you count only 3 boxes to locate where the center is. From A to E, from A to where the midpoint is, will be 1, 2, 3 boxes you have counted, and then the midpoint will be somewhere there. How do you check that your answer is correct? Check from the other side of the line. Is it going to be 3 boxes again? That I don't know. Let us check. From E, let me check if I have got 3 boxes. 1, 2, 3. So my midpoint is correct. So what is the midpoint? How do we write the answer? You write here that your midpoint is, you write this number here is -1. So the midpoint will be -1, comma, and then you read this number here from the y-axis, that is 3. So the midpoint of this side, A to E, the midpoint is -1, 3. Okay? So I hope now you have understood. So the other sides, I'll be going quickly. You can pause this video and try to find the midpoint of the other sides, because the question here is saying find the midpoint of each line. Find the midpoint of each side of this shape you see here, and this is a pentagon. Okay, let me go to this side. Now, from A to B, how many boxes are you cutting across? From A to B, we have the first box, we have the second box. So how many boxes are there from A to B? There are only 2 boxes. So what do you think I'm gonna do? You take the 2 boxes, divide by 2, because you are looking for the midpoint. So what does it mean? It means that 2 divided by 2 is 1. So it means that from A to B, the midpoint of the line from A to B, or the midpoint of this line, of this side A to B, the midpoint will be 1 box from A or 1 box from B. So the midpoint will be somewhere there. That is your midpoint. So you write here that the midpoint, you record the coordinates, that the midpoint will be, scroll down, the midpoint will be the coordinates. So you start recording the value of X, The value of x is 3, so you put the midpoint will be having 3, comma, and then you record the value of y. So the midpoint will be 3,3. So you're done. Okay. Now you can pause the video and try to locate the midpoint of the other line segments. Okay. Now let me talk about this side. Let me talk about this side here. How about this side from D to C? What is the midpoint of this line from D to C? The midpoint, the first thing you have to do is to count the number of boxes you cut across as you move from D to C. Count how many boxes from D to C you will be cutting through. Okay, the first box will be this box. You count it as 1. You have cut through that box. The second box you have cut through. The third box you have cut through. That other box you have cut through. Another box is there. Another box is there. So how many boxes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. Guess what? You are looking for the midpoint. What did I tell you? The number of boxes that you have cut through, there are 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 boxes in total. Now, because you are looking for the center, where is the center of that line? So you need to take the total number of boxes you have cut through, which is 6, you divide by 2. So how many boxes? The boxes are 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. You know what it means? It means that to get the midpoint of this line from D to C, you need to count 3 boxes from either point. So let me use point D. Count 3 boxes from D. 1, 2, 3. Stop. There is your midpoint. Or you can count from C 3 boxes. 1, 2, 3. This is your midpoint. Okay. I hope that is clear. You can pause this video and try the other sides of this pentagon. Otherwise, I will go ahead writing the midpoint of that line segment, or the midpoint of this line DC. So the midpoint will be, start recording how much is x. The value of x is -1, comma, record this, that is -1 also. So the midpoint is -1, comma -1. So there you go. You can pause the video, try to locate where the midpoint of this line B to C, where is the midpoint? Okay, you can pause the video, try to find the midpoint from D, the midpoint from B to C. Okay, like as I said, how do we find the midpoint from the graph paper? The midpoint from the graph paper is easily obtained by counting the number of boxes from one point to the other. Okay, so from B to C, how many boxes are there? How many boxes are you going to cut through? How many boxes are you going to cut through? From B to C, I'll be cutting through this box. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from B to C, there are 4 boxes. Now to find the midpoint, you need to take 4. You need to take 4, divide by 2. What is 4 divided by 2? The answer is 2. You know what it means? It means that from B to the midpoint, you count 2 boxes. From B to where the midpoint is located, we count only 2 boxes. So how do we do that? It's simple. How do we do that? It's simple. So what do we do? From B to C, we have got 4 boxes. From B to C, we got 4 boxes. That means the midpoint will be located 2 boxes away from either of these 2 points. Let me use point B. So from B to the midpoint, I'm going to count only 2 boxes. 1, 2. So there is your midpoint. And then you need to write that the midpoint will be, what is the value of x? The value of x is 3. comma, what is the value of y? The value of y on the x-axis. I repeat that. The value of y on the x-axis is 0. The value of y on the x-axis is 0. So at this point, the coordinates will be 3, 0. I hope you have understood how to find the midpoint by using a graph paper. I hope you have understood how to find the midpoint from the graph paper or from the grid. Right. So if you have understood that, now let me move to the next question. Let me move to the next question. Okay. Right. Now, the next question is this one. The next question is this one. So we are done. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of each side of this pentagon. So with the midpoint, we have done that. All right. The second question. The second question is question number 3. A is the point. All right. You are given A. You are given A. You are given A here. A is the point. So you are given A here. And the coordinates of A are 8, 0. B is another point. B is another point, which is 0, 6. Also, C is another point with the coordinates 10, 12. Now, what is the question? The question is, find the midpoint of AB. Find the midpoint of AB. Part B, find the midpoint of AC, A to C. Part C, find the coordinates of the line BC, BC. Now, there is a hint here. There is a hint here. Draw a diagram if you want. Draw the diagram if you want. Do you know which diagram they are talking about? They are talking about the diagram which you have to draw on a graph paper to show where is point A, where is point B, and where is point C. And then you go ahead drawing the line joining A to B, join A to C, join B to C. You'll be getting the lines like this. From A to B, you'll be getting lines which are looking like this. From A to B, from A to C, from A to C, and then from B to C, from B to C. So you'll be getting lines like this. Now, since I have taught you how to find the midpoint from the graph paper, this time I'm gonna find the midpoint by using a formula. I don't want to use a diagram. So to draw a diagram, I'm not going to use this option. So I'm going to use a formula. So finding the midpoint from the formula. The formula says the midpoint of any line equals to x1 plus x2. The answer you get divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2. The answer you get, you divide by 2, and you close bracket. So don't worry, I'm going to explain you what is this x1, what is this x2, what is this y1, what is this y2, and how do we get them. Let me start with the first line, the line from A to B. What is the midpoint? What is the midpoint of the line from A to B? So what I do, the line from A to B, what I'm gonna do, the line from A to B, what I'm gonna do is put point A there with coordinates 8, 0, and then put the coordinates of B, which are 0, 6. So the line which they are talking about, is the line from A to B. I repeat myself. The line which they are talking about, is from A to B. So what I'm gonna do is show you just roughly, is to show you just roughly the line from A to B. So the line from A to B is the line connecting the 2 points. I repeat myself. The line from A to B, the line from A to B is the line connecting point A and point B. So we are supposed to locate where the midpoint is. But this time, I'm not going to use what? I'm not going to use a graph paper. I'm going to use a formula. Okay. How do we find the midpoint by using a formula? We label the coordinates. We label the coordinates. Now the coordinates are labeled as follows. The coordinates are labeled as follows. On any point, we have the value of x. On any point, we have the value of x and we have the value of y. I repeat myself. On any point, for example, point A. On point A, we have the value of x and we have the value of y. Now, how do we know that? How do we know that this is the value of x and this is the value of y? So this number here before a comma belongs to x. And this number here after a comma belongs to y. See that? Again, this number before a comma belongs to x. And this number here after a comma belongs to y. Now, can you notice that I have two values of x? One is here, another one is here. Now, because I have got two values of x, this first number, the first number here, this first number here, this x, this 8 here, is labeled as the first value, is labeled as the first value of x, and we show it as x1. And this number you see here, this number you see here, is the second value, of x. This number here, this 0, is the second value of x, and we show it as x2. Now, just remember my words. Remember my words. What are those words? If this value is labeled as x1, put a comma. This value will automatically be y1, so that they should look similar. This should sound as x1, this should sound as y1. There's no way you can put x1 and on x1, then you label this to be y2. It is impossible and is not allowed. So if this is labeled as x1, the next number should be labeled y1. Likewise, if this is x2, this y should be y2. Now, have you seen where this x1 and x2 are coming from? They come from the points given. So then you are good to go for the calculation of the midpoint. Then you are good to go for the calculation of the midpoint, of which you're going to write midpoint equals to x1 plus x2. Now you know what is your x1, what is your x2. So my x1 is 8 plus my x2 is 0. What is 8 plus 2? I mean, what is 8 plus 0? 8 plus 0 is 8. That answer, 8 plus 0, will be divided by 2, according to the formula. Put a comma. Put a comma. Then, you already know what is y1, what is y2. So take your y1, which is 0, add it to y2. y2 is 6. The answer you get, you divide by 2. That is your midpoint. Now here you're going to simplify. Your midpoint equals to, this becomes to be a primary calculation. 8 plus 0 is 8. The answer you get, you're going to divide by 2. 0 plus 6 is 6. The answer you get, you're going to divide by 2. Now, what is your midpoint? The midpoint will be equal to 8 divided by 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So guess what? This is the midpoint of the line from A to B. I hope that is clear. You can pause the video and take notes on how to find the midpoint. You can pause this video and then take the calculations of this. Or if you have already done this question, please go ahead and checking if the midpoint of line AB you got 4,3. Otherwise, make corrections. Okay? All right. Let me move to part B. Now, this time, I'm not going to do part B and C slowly, because I believe that you have already understood how do we find what? The so-called midpoint. So I'll be doing it very fast. Pause this video, take the notes if you got it correct. Otherwise, if you got it correct, mark it that you got it correct. If you got it wrong, you are good to pause this video and do corrections, okay? Otherwise, let me move on to this next other question, all right? So there we go. For now, let me try to copy all of those. Copy all of these and at least move them aside. Do for this. Then move them aside like that, so that we can get a space for us to do at B. Now this time I'll be going quickly because I hope you have already understood the formula and the steps on how to find the midpoint. Okay, so there we go. Now, how do we find the midpoint of the line connecting line A to C? So what are you going to do? Take point A, put it here, 8, 0. This is A to C, and then take this point, put it there, 10, 12. Do you remember the formula for the midpoint? I hope you said yes. So the midpoint of the line from A to C will be equal to, do you remember the formula? Yes, of course. Is x1 plus x2. The answer you get divided by 2. Put a comma. Y1 plus y2. The answer you get, you divide by 2. This is your midpoint formula. Now, how do we move on? How do we move on with this formula? It's easy. You come back here at point A. You label this number as x1, and you label this number as your x2. What did I say? If this 8 is x1, this 0 will be labeled as y1. If this 10 is labeled x2, automatically this 12 will be y2. Now you already know what is your x1, what is your x2, what is your y1, what is your y2. So you go ahead, putting the numbers here. What is your x1? My x1 is 8. Plus, what is your x2? My x2 is 10. The answer you get, you'll be dividing by 2. What is y1? y1 is 0 plus y2 is 12. The answer you get, divide by 2. See that? Correct. Now, go ahead computing this. This will be 80 divided by 10, that is 80. 2, 0 plus 12, that is 12, divided by 2. Guess what? This becomes a primary calculation. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Put a comma. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Brackets. This is the midpoint. This is the midpoint of the line from A to C. You can pause the video and try to check if your answer is correct. If your answer is correct, go ahead putting a tick. If your answer is incorrect, now you know the working towards the answer. So you can help me do corrections. And if you still have doubt, you can meet me in school. Just come to school and then meet me. I'm going to help you. Otherwise, let me move to part C, the line from B to C. What is the midpoint? Okay. Now, like as I said, I'm going to do that quickly, right? So there we go. Let me try to delete everything from here. That is finding the midpoint by using the formula. That is finding the midpoint by using a formula. The other method is plotting the coordinates on the graph paper. Then after plotting, join the points by using a straight line, and then check where the midpoint is, like as I have showed you in the previous question. Okay, now we have B to C. B is A is this point, B that point. So B is 0.6. C is 10.12. Okay, now we know how to label. This is X1. This is Y1. This is X2. This is Y2. What is the midpoint? The midpoint equals to X1 plus X2. So I'm going to I'll be writing 0 plus 10. The answer I get divided by 2. Y1 plus Y2, 6 plus 12. The answer you get divided by 2. I'm going quickly because you already understood in part A as well as in part B. 0 plus 10 is 10 divided by 2. 6 plus 12 is 18 divided by 2. What is the midpoint? The midpoint will be 5.9. See that? What is this point? Sorry. What is this midpoint standing for? This midpoint is standing for the line joining B to C. So here you write midpoint of the line from B to C. Go ahead and try to check your answer. If your answer is correct, put a tick. If your answer is incorrect, please help me to do the corrections. And then if you still have doubt, please come and meet me. Otherwise, let us proceed. We have question number 8. We have question number 8, which I guess will be our last question. Okay. Now, how do we move from this question? Simple. How do we move from this question? Simple. The question is so specific. The question is so specific. The question says, and here I read before you, the question says, a square has vertices. What does vertices mean? Vertices are nothing but corners. You see? Vertices are nothing but what? Corners. So a square has corners or has vertices at A, which is coordinates 2,3, B, 3,-1, C, -1, -2, D, -2, 2. Draw the square. Where do we draw a square? We draw this square because we are given the coordinates. We are given the coordinates. So what I'm going to do is plot these coordinates. Where? On a graph paper. Plot these coordinates on where? On a graph paper. After plotting these coordinates here on a graph paper, then you connect those 4 points to get the so-called a shape. In this case, the square. So there we go. So go ahead taking a graph paper, plot these points on a graph paper, and then you're good to go. But for demonstration purpose, I've got my graph paper here, which I'm gonna quickly use. And then I join these points to get a shape of a square. Let me start plotting point A. Let me start plotting point A with coordinates 2, 3. How do we do that? It's simple. Simple. 2, 3. Where is 2? This is 2. This is 2. Can you see that? This is 2. Where is 3 on the y-axis? This is 3. Now, do we do like this? Do we do like this? The answer is no. How do we plot the coordinates? How do we plot the coordinates? We plot the coordinates by looking at, see this, 2, 3. 2 is here. This is 2. This is 3. So 2, 3 will be somewhere there. And you label that this is point A. You go ahead labeling that this is point A. That is point A. How about point B? Point B is 3, -1. Point B is 3, -1. So 3 is here. This is your 3. This is your -1. So the point they're talking about is somewhere there. And you go ahead labeling that is point B. See that? 3, -1. That is your 3, -1. How about C? C is -1, -2. -1, -2. Where is -1, -2? This is your -1. Let me show you. This is your -1, and this is your -2. See that? And you go ahead labeling that is point C. Okay. -1, -2. How about D? -2, 2. So -2 is here. -2 is here. Let me scroll down. -2 is somewhere here. And that is -2, 2. So you have -2 here. You have -2 here. So this is your -2, 2. Can you see that? Okay. Now, this should be labeled as point D. That is your point D. Okay. Now, what is remaining? Let me check quickly if I've done it correctly. I have 2, 3. I have 2, 3. I have 3, -1, 3, -1. I have -1, -2. I have -2, 2. I've done it correct. So what is remaining? What is remaining over here is now to draw or to connect. You have to connect. You have to connect. We have to connect this point D, connect D to A to B, B to C, C to D, to get the so-called B shape. Okay, so connect A to B. Can you see that? Connect A to B, connect B to C, like so. Connect C to D, like so, and connect D back to A. Can you see that? That is your square. That is your square. All right. Now, let's try to make this square a little bit transparent so that you can see it should be something like that. Okay. So there we go. That is your square. Now, draw the square. Done. I have drawn the square. This is your square. So if you got a shape like this, go ahead marking your work. If not, please help me do the corrections. Okay? So if you have something like this, go ahead putting a tick. Now, let's go to the next part. The diagonals. The diagonals. The diagonals are A, C. You may be wondering, what does a diagonal mean? What is a diagonal? We say a diagonal is a line. A diagonal is a line connecting, is a line that connects. A diagonal is a line that connects. That connects two opposite vertices, two of opposite vertices. Do you remember what I said? The meaning of vertices? Yes, of course. Vertices is referred to as corners. See that? So we say a diagonal is a line. A diagonal is nothing but a line that connects two opposite vertices. So they are saying the diagonals are AC. Go back to your diagram. From A to C. Let us try to draw that line. Let us try to draw the diagonal. From A to C. Can you see that? From A to C. Can you see that? That is your diagonal. That is your diagonal. So how many diagonals are there? We have this is my first diagonal. We have also this is your second diagonal. See that? See that? That is two diagonals. So we have two diagonals. One is from A to C. Another one is from B to D. Now, what is the question? The question is the diagonals, which are AC and BD. Here, I've showed them here. A to C, B to D, those are diagonals. Now, what is the question? Show that the diagonals have the same midpoint. Do you remember what I said about the midpoint? I said the midpoint of a line segment is a point which is located at the center of the line. Now, let me talk about the first diagonal. Let me talk about the first diagonal. Can you go ahead locating where the diagonal, where the center of this diagonal A to C? Can you try to show me where is the midpoint? Where is the midpoint? Where is the center of this line segment from A to C? Where is the center? Where is the midpoint? Can you try to help me locate where is the midpoint? Do you remember what I said? I said midpoint is the center of the line. And what did I also say? I also said midpoint of a line can be calculated by using a formula or can be read from the graph paper. Now we are lucky. We are lucky that we have the graph paper already. Now I can't use the formula. I will go ahead using a graph paper. How do we locate a graph paper? How do we use a graph paper to locate the midpoint of a line? It's simple. Let me show you where the midpoint is, but I guess you can pause this video and try to locate where the midpoint of this line A to C, where is the midpoint? But let me move on. The midpoint of this line from A to C will be located at the center of the line. Where is the center? Count the boxes. How many boxes you're cutting through? The first box, 1, 2, can you see that? So you have 1, then you have 2, you have 3, you have 5, you have 6, you have 7, you have 8. Can you see that? Okay. Midpoint. How do we find the midpoint? Let me try to remove that yellow color, because it may happen that it is confusing my students because they don't see clearly. They don't see clearly the boxes I'm cutting. Let me try to remove it. Okay. Let me try to remove. Yes, let me try to remove the yellow color, because I may think that it was perhaps confusing my students. Okay, now let us count the boxes again. How do we count the boxes? The boxes are this one. Each graph paper, every graph paper you have, even the graph paper you're using at home, it has boxes. Can you see this? So as you cut that box, you count it that I've cut one box. Even if you cut it partly, just a small section of a box, you count it that you have cut through that that box. Okay, so from here, let me try to locate the midpoint. How many boxes from A to C? I've cut that box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so where is the midpoint? The midpoint will be somewhere here. You have got, let me try to help you. We check it again. 1, this box. 1, this box. The second box, you have cut it just partly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 boxes you have got. 7 divided by 2. This is 3.5. 3.5. So we'll be counting 3.5 boxes. 1, 2, 3.5 that. So my midpoint will be somewhere here. That will be my midpoint. Let me check on the other side. We try to check the other side. Let me try to check the other side. Yeah. Let me try to check the other side. Does it look like this will be the midpoint? Does this look to you like the midpoint? Yes, of course. Let me check the other side from here. 1, 2, 3.5. So I got it. 1, 2, 3.5 of that box. 1, 2, 3.5 of that box. So this is your midpoint. You see that? That is your midpoint of this diagonal from A to C. Guess what? Guess what? They've said that, show that the diagonals have the same midpoint. Show that the diagonals have the same point. How do I do that? So what I'm gonna do is to take this other diagonal, put it here. And now I'm going again to repeat the process. I'm going again to repeat the process. Look, look, look. This is the other diagonal. Look, this is the other diagonal. Can you see that? Now I'm going to take this diagonal, put it back here, and see where is its midpoint going to be located. Where is its midpoint going to be located? I'm guaranteeing you that the midpoint of that line will be located at the same midpoint. Can you try to count the boxes? Try to count the boxes. Let us try to count the boxes. How many boxes from D to B are there? Even if you cut the box just partly, does not matter. Count the boxes from D to B. How many boxes are there? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. Also, I'm getting 7 boxes. From where? From D to B. I repeat, cutting the boxes is not necessary that you should cut the boxes in the middle. No, 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 no. Even if, look at this box. Look at this box. Even if I cut this box partly like this, like that, I have cut that box. So I'll count it as 1 that I have gone through this box. Even if, look at this box, look at this box. Even if you cut it like this, you have cut it. So you count it as 1 box. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. Now, how do we move on? Let me count. You remember the boxes I got from A to C? The boxes I got from A to C were 7. When I divide by 2 to find where the midpoint is, I got 3.5. How about D to B? How about D to B? Same, I got 7. How? I counted. Even if I'm not cutting the box halfway, I count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes are there. Now, when I do 7 divided by 2, I get 3.5. So, do you remember what we got? Here we got 3.5, and also we have got 3.5 for the other diagonal. Hence, by referring to this diagram, hence the 2 diagonals have the same midpoint. And you can check here. 1, 2 boxes, 3 boxes and a half. Also from here, 1, 2, 3 and a half. So how do we conclude this question? How do we conclude this question? How do we conclude this? How do we conclude this question? We conclude by saying that. Show that the diagonals have the same midpoint. So by referring to the above diagram, we see that the two diagonals of the square have the same midpoint. Have the same midpoint. End of the discussion. Now let us stop here. And I'm sorry that this video was too long, but it depends because I was trying to explain in deeply how to find the midpoint. Until next time, my name is Zebron. Bye-bye. Stay safe.